Hi, I'm Nan Simonson, and I want to welcome you to PowerPoints number 21. And what's the point? Well, PowerPoints of interest as they relate to lifestyle as medicine. I'm a health coach with a lifestyle medical practice. It will be 5 years in January. And I believe with all my heart that through lifestyle, we can have a promising life decades beyond what a lot of people are experiencing who live the and eat the standard American lifestyle and diet. So today I'm playing around with words, and the title of today's, I'll say, information session is The Power of a Date. And I'm doing wordplay sort of in the same way that Esther LeBecq Loveridge did in her book. Why am I bringing that up? Because she did something kind of unique. Esther, through a book that she read of Dr. McDougall, his 21-day intensive lifestyle change or intensive weight loss program, reading his book that a friend gave her was the beginning of her aiming to lose 70 pounds, but ultimately lost 131. The pictures in the book showed the difference. She was a very large woman who now weighs, I think she's 5'7" or 8. I think she said she was once 5'9", but she shrunk. And I think she says she weighs 128 or something, or 22 or something. She's, in other words, really lean, but not overly skinny. So what's my point? Okay, so she wrote this book, From Donuts to Potatoes, because she used to find herself face first in donuts and donut shops, where she happened to meet the man who is her husband. And she loves potatoes, and she lives on potatoes and a whole food plant-based diet as prescribed by Dr. McDougall for great health. And this has been 8 years now, and she has kept her weight off. So again, what's the point? Well, she did something interesting in her book. I met her in Sacramento at a conference a few months ago that AJ hosted. Was it September? And I gave her my book. She gave me her book. And actually, she bought my book from me and insisted, and then handed me her book. And I tried to insist, and she wouldn't have anything to do with it. But what she did with her book is that she, I don't know if you can see this. Can you see the picture of her? It's very fuzzy. That's her in the upper photo. And this is her in this lower photo. I don't know if you can see the difference, but she's in other words, her life is new. What you can do with a slimmer body and better health. And she had all kinds of things wrong with her. Lots of things wrong with her. Even her eyesight improved to the point where she didn't have to wear glasses. No more diabetes. I mean, just on and on. So what she did when she read her book, I looked at this and I thought, I don't know if I could read all that. Well, what it is that it's a word diary for 365 days. What does that mean? A word a day. And she would come up with a word like light or life or Valentine or source or vision or tolerance. Today's word on the 28th of November is full. Anyway, and then do wordplay with it. And I thought that was fascinating, and it kept me reading because sometimes it was fanciful and sometimes it was spot on philosophic. All right. So the power of a date. Well, what's a date to me? Well, let's start with the real thing. And that is a sweet, dark, brown oval fruit. That's a date. And what's the significance of that? I've been whole food plant-based now for a little more than 4 years. No, sorry, 5 years. I began in the fall of 2018. So we are almost at Christmas, a month from it. Well, less than a month in 2023. And dates have have taken the place of processed sugar. I don't eat processed sugar. I don't use it. I don't own it. I use dates more than anything and still can have dessert. For example, Thanksgiving was here at my house and I made Chef AJ's, the apple pie that won't make you die. And what is it? It's dates and oats for the crust. It's dates and apples, or date paste and apples for the filling. And then some coconut on it. Absolutely delicious. So I can still have desserts. I still have a little piece of that. It was a big pie in a springform pan. And I still have a bit of that almost every night. And it's been a while since Thanksgiving. So dates are a fruit. Dates are sort of, for a lot of us, a way to continue to enjoy sugar. And what's the difference? It's whole food. I'm not vegan as a descriptive of my eating, other than the fact that I don't eat animals. I am whole food, plant-based, which means I eat food as close to nature as possible. And I make a real point of that. And a date is, well, the whole date eaten out of hand would be as close to nature as possible. The date paste is that same thing with water, whirled up in a blender. And yeah, it breaks up some of the fiber, and the fiber is what allows it not to hit your body as a bolus of glucose, and makes it much easier on our metabolic, or for our metabolic health, than sugar. But it's still a whole food, even though it's been blended. Okay, so I'll leave it at that. Well, what else is a date? Let me give you 3 things from what Little Oxford English Dictionary. The day of the month or year as specified, no, as described by a specified number. Another one, a day when a specified event occurred. And then another, informally, more informal, a social or romantic appointment. I like that one, and I'll talk more about that. But for example, a day or a of the month or the year specified by a specific event. Well, how about what we just finished? Today is what, 5 days, 6 days since Thanksgiving. And a lot of people say that's their favorite holiday. Why? Because people gather together lovingly, caringly, and socially in ways that they sometimes don't bother to any other time of the year. Yes, in our faith, we have Christmas. In other faiths, there are other times of the year. There's Hanukkah and there's Yom Kippur, and there are other holidays. But yes, those are all a specific time of a day or a part of a year where we make a point to do what we otherwise wouldn't do. Take that out of your life. Just think about all of that not existing. And how many of us would find a way to get together with people to the degree that we do on these holidays, and think of what they do for us. We have this social connection. We have the visceral connection of being able to hug people we love. We gather together to eat, and that's a big part of what we do to celebrate life. So Thanksgiving is an important day, that last Thursday of every November, year after year. And then we have Christmas, December 25th, whenever that happens to fall. And this year it will fall on a Monday. And for some of us, that's a very holy day. A date as it relates to, let's say, specific events. I'm going to talk about a date as it relates to decisions that we make in our life, and what the value of setting dates for those decisions. We can call them goals. A date is a deadline, which helps us focus our efforts and gives us a sense of urgency and to motivate us to action. How many things have I set as because of a date, given a sense of urgency? The first time I ran a 10K, the second time I ran a 10K, then I ran a half marathon. Those directed me for months and months and months toward activity and action that I otherwise wouldn't have taken if it weren't for that date in which I needed to perform, and performed in ways I never would have had I not set up that date that then dictated the weeks, months, and days before that. And then what else is a date? A commitment we make to ourselves. And I think of, and this is sort of a flow of consciousness thing, and so I'm going to get a little personal here. I think of my own life. I think of I always get weepy when I talk about this, so if I can live with it, you can. My first marriage. We were married on December 19th, and he's been gone now 13 years. He passed away of esophageal cancer. Anyway, we were married on December 19th. Well, my son decided to marry his wife. They knew my husband was terminal in September of 2019. And they were able to get off of work and be together here in California, and they didn't live here. On the following, well, actually on a weekend before Christmas, and that happened to be December 19th, my son married his wife on the same day that my husband and I were married, and it just happened to work out that was the Saturday. We danced our last anniversary dance on that date at my son's wedding. Isn't that beautiful? So I remarried. This is a good thing. It's all right. I remarried, and I still remember the date, February 19th. And that was 2010. That I met my husband. It was a date at a restaurant, a place called Panera. And we met online, believe it or not. And I walked through the door, and this man is standing looking at me with this huge smile. That was etched in my brain and still is. And that's been 11 years. Well, yeah, that was 11 years ago. So I was married 40 years. I was married now because we got married later on that year on the 24th of November, which was this year, a day after Thanksgiving, but sometimes it's Thanksgiving. So we just had another anniversary, our 11th. So I've been married 51 years. I look at dates as being very important in marriages, and I'll tell you what I mean. Every Friday we have a date night. It's prescribed. If something's going to interfere with that, it better be big, because that's when we know we're going to go out, sit across from each other at a table, and talk for an hour or two. That's, as they say, etched in stone. But we have another day, and that is Sunday. And I'm going to tell you, this is where it gets really personal. Okay, we spent that 5 days with my 13-year-old grandson at the beach, had a great time. But something happened the last night we were there. I'm not exactly sure what, but it turned into it didn't go well. My husband got irritated by something, and he snapped at me, and I thought, what the heck? And I hold things with me, and that was on Saturday night, and I didn't like him. I was mad at him. And so this is just several days ago, but we have a thing. We have a thing that we've done for 10 years now, or 11 years now. And that is that on Sundays, that is our day to hang. And in these last, oh gosh, probably, well, especially since we went plant-based 5 years ago, we've always had Sunday brunch somewhere. Well, now we have Sunday brunch at a vegan restaurant that we adore. It's 20 minutes from us and we just love their food. And then we go to a farm store. It's 15 acres, this enormous tent with everything they picked that day. And we load up on the food we're going to eat that week, and lots of it. I never waste food. So one way or another, it becomes something, a soup, a sauce, a steam, or a stir fry, or whatever. And then there was a time that we made margaritas, and when and as they said, hung from the chandeliers. We don't drink anymore at all. He was drinking 2 glasses of wine a night, and for a long time. And then he heard it wasn't good for your brain and went to 1 glass of wine at night with dinner. This was always with dinner. And then decided, I don't want anything interfering with my thinking. He has a very cerebral business job. He's a tax attorney, CPA, and has to use his brain. And I think as we get older, it starts getting slower. And he never said that, but I think maybe that worried him. And so he stopped drinking. We both did. And I barely drank in January. And so that's coming up on a year ago. But instead, we make these mocktails. So every Sunday, we do the restaurant, the veg tent, and then we come and well, let me just read this again. So a social and romantic appointment. That's what we do. And we're both in our 70s. And okay, why am I even saying this very personal thing? Because if it hadn't been for that date, if it hadn't been for my knowing that we always have time for ourselves on Sunday, and if either of us ever said, no, I'm not, because we were grouchy or in a just frame of mind that wasn't very good, and we broke that date, that would be treacherous. In other words, that would be making a statement loud and clear. I'm changing things and I'm turning things negative or upside down. Both of us are smarter than that. And it worked as it always does. In that, whatever was bugging, well, is it a guy thing? I think this is mainly women. Is it a guy thing that they can go off and cool down and barely even remember, if at all, what they did, and we stew? I didn't sleep that night. I stewed. I'm a stewer. And that was gone. That was gone. So that's one of the things that inspired me to talk about a date. The value of having a thing that you do for a reason that brings about good results. Good results in that you set it up as an initiative. Good results in that it brings you to do what you otherwise wouldn't do, like getting together with people in very special ways at very special times. They demand movement on our part. They drive movement. They drive us to do, well, usually the best things that we can for ourselves and for our lives, especially if we think them through and they inspire and motivate us. That's all I have to say about that. So I'll ask you, what dates have served you well? What memories are tied to dates that inspire you to hold them close to you and protect them at all costs? What dates move you to action? What dates do you have in your future? I've done something new. I'm a certified health coach, but I'm not nationally board certified. I decided, even though I was certified 5 years ago, that I want to take the national boards. because I want to know that I'm nationally board certified. And so I'm taking a 3-month practicum. In other words, 3 condensed months of training to be able to pass the boards, which I will do by the end of May. So now here I am. I'll be 73 in January 9th. I'm going into this year excited that I'm accomplishing a goal that I thought off and on about, but discounted, thinking it doesn't really matter. I don't even know that it matters, but I want that. And so I'm going to do it. And so that date, May, now holds new power for me. And then in April, on the 24th of April, my house will be on a 2-day garden tour. As a matter of fact, one of our members who is on right now, I call it in the background in our Zoom call, her name is Rebecca. Her house is on a garden tour too. We live within a mile of each other. Isn't that fun? And we didn't know each other before that. So what date is ahead of you? What dates are behind you? What date matters to you? That's all. Have a great day. You know, I'm going to. And thank you for joining me today. All right. Bye-bye.